Hi, welcome to episode 11 of my Ask the Expert interview series. That's amazing. 11 episodes. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, so today I'm blessed to be joined by Carly. Carly is one of my very first clients as a personal trainer. She's moved away and since done some very interesting stuff. Okay, she's battled some battles, she's faced some challenges, and she's now found herself in a career that only a few years ago would never have been an option. Okay, so I'm dead excited by this. So get yourself comfortable, get yourself a cuppa or a brew or whatever you're having, and I'll see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to another one of my Ask the Expert interviews as part of the I'm Doing It For Me, IDIFM podcast and YouTube series. Well, today I'm joined by Carly. Carly is somebody that has a really strong message, hello, about her history with mental health, but not only that, some of the coping mechanisms within that and some of the work she's done on herself within that, but also how that's led her to be a successful woman in technology. So quite a range that we've got to talk about. How are you doing today, Carly? Okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very good. The sun's shining, so I can't complain.
Absolutely not. No, the weather has been good. I think it's been a bit cold recently, but at least we've got sunshine. And sunshine is very important, isn't it? So Kelly, really, let's just start by telling us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. It's really exciting. I'm really excited but nervous to be here. So I am 35 years old. If I actually think about it, I've probably struggled with mental health my whole life, but it was only sort of maybe mid-20s that I actually realised that and started to do something about it and get help and put a name to it, really. There was always loads of things there, but I didn't really know what it meant and what it was. So yeah, I feel like I still definitely struggle with mental health. It's still something that's part of my everyday life. Yeah. But I feel like I understand my mental health a lot more now, and the things that I've gone through and the various things that have led up to where I am today are sort of, mental health been a big part of that and has really built like my future kind of thing, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So what are you, so when you said it's led who you are today, who would you describe yourself as? Tell us who Carly is, what kind of things do you enjoy? Just who are you?
Yeah, well, I think like one of the main things I struggled with that's been a big part of my mental health is my absolute hatred for myself. I'm sure we might go into that in more detail later. But yeah, absolutely have just hate who I am or hated who I am, hated the way I look, my personality, like everything about myself. But going through that stage of my life, going through various different things to get to where I am today, is I don't hate myself. And I think that's a really big thing for me when I think about who I am. Who I was not that long ago was someone I hated. I don't hate who I am today. I've done a degree at university. I got a first class degree in nutrition and food. I now don't work in that field at all, but that's fine. But I work with tech now. I'm a woman in tech, which I think is really cool. I'm a feminist. I'm a CrossFitter. I'm a runner. I'm all sorts of things. And I think, again, this whole sort of hating myself and being unhappy with who I was, I wouldn't have said before that I was a runner. I'd have been like, oh, well, I go out and I try a bit of jogging. And, I wouldn't have been positive in saying I am a runner. I wouldn't have said I am a CrossFitter. I would have said, oh, I go to some CrossFit classes. So yes, who I am today is someone who is a little bit more positive, which is fantastic.
It is, and definitely I can see and I can hear in your voice as well, because for anyone that doesn't know, so we used to work together. We did some personal training together, didn't we? And believe it or not, it was over a couple of years ago, which has absolutely flown since. I don't know how that's the case, but seeing you then and seeing the Carly then and the Carly now, there is significant differences in just the way, like you said, the way that you're talking about yourself, the way that you describe yourself. And there were some really cool points. And you said, and actually you noticed there when you said about CrossFitter and the difference now and being more confident in saying that's a part of you, not just an action that you do, not just, things that you partake in, but actually that you identify as that, and you know, I follow your Instagram, and I always have done, and I see pictures of you and Ollie doing workouts and calling them all silly names, and you know, you've got it written up on your whiteboard and stuff, and it's amazing to see. So what was it, is there anything in particular that helped you make that change then, if that's a fairly recent thing?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually a really significant thing. So last year, it was in between the lockdowns. So I can't remember when it was, maybe November, December time. I mean, a lot of things have happened and changed over the years, and I handle my mental health a bit better. I'm on medication, so obviously that helps. I do exercise, which is a massive thing for me, and it really makes me feel better, getting outside, things like that. But an actual thing that happened was I went for some hypnotherapy. Now, I've got a friend who does it, and I'd had a session with her before. This was a while ago. It was when I still lived in Garforth, so this was at least a couple of years ago. And I'd booked it in. She was new to hypnotherapy, or newish, so she was doing some cheap sessions, and I love a bargain. Who doesn't love a bargain? So I was like, I'll be a guinea pig. I've got anxiety. It'd be great to have a session. Anyway, she came over. And one thing I hadn't considered was I made sure Ollie was out. Ollie's my partner, for those who don't know who he is. But I didn't make sure that my dog Huey wasn't there. It didn't really occur to me. He's a bit fussy when people first come to the house, but he settles down and he usually just goes and lies down or whatever, yeah. But he wouldn't settle. So we tried to do this hypnotherapy class. I felt quite relaxed, but Huey was just at me and on me the whole time. And I think he was a bit confused about this lady like trying to put me to sleep, basically. So that didn't really work. I didn't really feel any better for it afterwards. I didn't feel any worse, but I didn't feel any better for it. And we've been saying since then that I would have another session, we would try again. I had a lot of anxiety building up last year through a few different things. Work was difficult, a few sort of personal issues. So I reached out to her anyway, and I said, look, I need some hypnotherapy. I need some proper hypnotherapy. And at the time, she has been doing Zoom classes and Zoom sessions, but I said I need one face-to-face. So as soon as we were allowed to do that kind of stuff, it was about November, December time, I went over and I had a hypnotherapy session. And it was really good. I didn't need to give a load of details if I didn't want to, so I didn't have to go into like my horrible childhood or anything like that. You know, it didn't have to be traumatic for me. I could tell her as much or as little. So what I really focused on was how I felt about myself and how I view myself and everything. So we had the hypnotherapy session, and during that, she said one of the main things with hypnotherapy is you need to be open to it, because if you're not, your mind will close itself off naturally. And it's not necessarily something that I really believed in, but I didn't not believe in it either. I am quite open-minded because I see it as I'll try anything. I feel like crap. Somebody's telling me this might make me feel better. It's unlikely it'll make me feel worse, so I'll give it a go. So I had the session, and I won't tell you everything that happened, but the main thing, and the thing where in that moment as well, like being in this relaxed state, it was like proper life-changing for me. And I say that, and that sounds really big, and I mean that. She made me do this one bit where I had to imagine my younger self. Hopefully I won't cry, because I normally cry when I retell this. But I had to imagine my younger self, and I had to go up to her and hold her little hands. And at first to be honest, I wasn't sure where she was going with it. So I kind of imagined this little toddler, so this little baby Carly just like running around. And then I kind of clicked onto what she was talking about. So I sort of changed that into like my teenage self. And she basically said to me, like, tell us some things that you wish you could have thought about yourself then. You know, you say these horrible things about yourself. Are you going to say that to her? You're not. You know, talk to her, tell her that she's loved, tell her that she's worthy of love, and all this stuff. And I just absolutely started streaming, crying, which is a really weird feeling when you're like under hypnosis and you know, I was very aware of my body, but I also kind of felt like I wasn't in it, so I could feel the tears running down my cheeks. And it was a really weird experience. But wow, did it open my eyes? Like, oh God, if I imagine now, like my younger self, like, no wonder. I mean, to be fair, like, it's funny because she said the reason I say these things about myself is a lot of it is because other people said it, you know, throughout my life, other people have said these horrible things. So you believe them. And it was like, you know, why, like, oh my God, if I could take that away from my younger self and just say all these lovely positive things, you know, and it was just, it absolutely broke my heart. And I went away from that session and it changed me. It changed the way I felt about myself. And it was funny because I wasn't supposed to talk about it for a couple of days, because she said you need to let your sort of subconscious soak it all in. And she says one of the concerns is if you tell somebody who is really closed-minded and doesn't think it would work, they could convince you otherwise, and all the work you've put in that session could be wasted. So I had to wait like 2 or 3 days before I could talk about it. And those 2 or 3 days were weird as well because I couldn't share this experience and I really wanted to. But anyway, a couple of days later, I was in the bathroom, going to the toilet or something, and I passed the mirror and I looked in the mirror and I thought, I don't hate you. And that was a massive thing for me because every other time I've passed the mirror, I've been like, I hate you. So that was a big moment for me, a really big moment. And I have to say that, you know, we're a few months since then. I don't quite have that massive love for myself that I had that following day. You know, I've still crept back in. I'm not going to pretend that it's cured me, but I still don't hate myself. You know, there's things that I'd start to say that I'm starting to dislike again, and, you know, but hate is a strong word, and because I don't want to use that word about myself, because, you know, what I've learned about this whole process of, you know, imagining I'm with a younger me, you know, why would I tell myself I hate myself? Because that doesn't help.
No, I mean, that's incredible, because I think we've all heard the same, would you say it to somebody else? And if you wouldn't say it to somebody else, then why would you say it to yourself? And that's one level, but actually going as far as imagining yourself, that really, for me, I can understand why that's had an impact, because you're then looking at someone so you know how that person feels because you've been there, it was you, and then you're about to say the things. And sometimes we have this inner dialogue that, you know, we have expectations of ourselves, and some of it's built from external, so some of it's built from the things our parents have said, friends have said, or people that we've surrounded ourselves with in the past, all that have surrounded themselves with us. Sometimes we don't choose who we're around, but sometimes we are just around people. But then sometimes we grow this opinion of ourselves which is contradictory to those around us as well. So I think part of what you were saying there is, I'm in no doubt that your partner says to you, or your family will say to you, because I know your sister as well, don't I, Sarah? So I know they'll say things to you that are things that come from a place of love, come from a place of positivity. But then when them things are said, it isn't always easy to take them compliments and actually believe them. And that's not just you specifically, but us as a society, as individuals within that. It's actually a challenge to accept a compliment, which seems like a real irony. But yeah, I mean, how, just on that then, so I said a couple of things to you when we were talking about how I was going to introduce this video. How do you find it's changed anything else? Has it changed your view on, or how you feel when you receive compliments or other positive things, or is there anything else it's altered that you've noticed? Or
that's a good question, really. I guess so, yeah, in a way. You know, receiving compliments is great. You know, I'm all for it, and I'm all for giving compliments, but yes, sometimes it's hard to take that things on board when you don't feel that way about yourself, because you kind of like, why are you lying? Why are you saying these things? They're not true. And yes, it has made a difference, I have to say, and I'm more open. I still might not agree with you, but I'm kind of more open for people having an opinion as well. I think one of the things you've got to consider when someone's saying something to you, whether it's a compliment or constructive criticism or just an outright horrible thing, that's their opinion. And I think it's about accepting that I might not quite agree that I'm beautiful and perfect or whatever all of them might say to me, but I accept that that's your opinion, you know, and I think that's important as well. But it definitely has allowed me to believe in myself more as well. you know, when I am given a compliment, I'm more ready to accept that might be who I am, or might be who I could become.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If it's slightly different or slightly further away from what you're feeling at that time, that you're actually able to, and that's brilliant that you're able to accept that as somebody else's opinion. Because actually there's a thought that I've got on opinions and compliments and things like that, and actually if you do really struggle on taking them, and we hear it all the time. I'm sure I come across people all the time, and I do it sometimes when I'm not feeling on top form, and somebody will say something, and you're like, oh, I'm only doing my job, or I'm only being me, or you kind of just play it off as if, well, I'll take it, thank you, but you know, I'm not going to fully absorb it. But then essentially, if we think about it, if somebody's had that thought and then vocalized that and said to us something positive or a compliment, or, you know, you look great, or, you know, your hair looks good, or, you know, them dungarees are awesome. I mean, we've talked about them dungarees.
Dungarees are really cool.
But you say something like that, and that as a simple concept is a gift from somebody.
Yeah.
So sometimes I liken that to if somebody gives you a Christmas present or a present for something you expect to get Christmas presents. So somebody gives you that. How do you react to that? So you always say thank you, and there's almost, you know, that transaction is going to happen, so you're ready for that, and you're ready, but you're not, because compliments by nature, we're not ready for them.
Yeah.
But if we think about it in that way, if we just take a second to go, hang on, okay, this is a gift. What do I say about a gift? I accept it. It's now mine. It's mine to do with what I choose.
Yeah.
But thank you. You know, thank you for the thought. Thank you for the process behind that.
That's really, I like that. I was hoping I'd get some analogies, so I'm really glad that was a good one. I liked that one.
Thank you. I do love a good analogy. I think sometimes it simplifies it down. So when you're in that moment, when you're in that moment, and sometimes the fog comes across and you can't see the wood for the trees, something as simple as that can sometimes make the difference. And I found that. So I always like to share stuff like that. I mean, that's brilliant to say that, you know, to say that there's been such a long journey, and that actually only a few months ago it was something as physical as not necessarily a treatment, but an answer, because there's so many answers and so many different forms of help and support and things out there. But something like that, which I've never tried, I've never looked into. Some people will be skeptics, and I'm sure, like you said, you alluded to, there's that bit of skepticism around it, but you were open to that, and to have that effect is incredible.
I mean, you know Sarah, my sister.
Yeah.
She's actually doing chemistry at university.
Yeah.
She's very science and facts.
Yeah.
She doesn't, you know, think outside of that box really. So I was actually scared to tell her I didn't tell her I was getting hypnotherapy, because I didn't. And again, with the hypnotherapy, she's a lovely lady called Denise, and she said to me, you know, this whole thing about not talking about it straight away. Yeah. I could tell people I'd gone, but to actually relive any of the experience, she was worried, or it's a general thing that people might try and talk you out of it, kind of thing. But I'd already thought that with Sarah. I thought, if she tells me how it's all just a load of voodoo and it's like woo-woo magic, that I'll go in with a closed mind. But actually her response when I did tell her was amazing, because it didn't matter what she believed and what she thought about hypnotherapy. It was the fact that whatever had happened in that session worked for me, and I was better because of it. But yeah, it was it's funny because people, you know, will be skeptical and stuff, but I could go back again and it might not have the same effect, but that session did something for me, and it did. And I said to Denise, and I left her review on her Facebook, and I said, this changed my life, because it did. You know, it really was that kind of big moment for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like you said about that thought that Sarah might think of it a certain way and might be quite skeptical, and she doesn't, you know, she's not backwards for coming forward. She will just tell you, which I think you both do anyway, and that's part of the charm. But that is enough. That could have been enough to stop you from going.
Exactly.
Because other people might think a certain way about it.
And where would I be now? You know, we don't know. you know, and it's like you said, everything about how I talked about, you asked me who I was, you know, I'm a this, I'm a that. I probably wouldn't have said any of that before. If we were still in this situation, having this podcast, I'd have been like, well, I do CrossFit. I sometimes go out jogging, you know, and it would have been a different thing.
It would have been. I think that came across in when you were messaging me about coming on. And I think there was definitely I'm going to sound woo-woo now, but there was definitely a brightness. So I think there's a lot that can be said, especially in the last year with the lockdown and stuff. There's a lot to be said about how you conduct yourself and how you come across over various messages. So by text. So when we haven't got the kind of non-verbal communication, we've only got literal letters up on the page. And I could tell that there was not only a desire to tell people or tell me, for us to have a conversation about the things that you've seen change in you, but also that excitement and that nervousness about doing so as well. So it's very, you know, very indicative of how you're feeling about it, that actually there's a little part of you that's probably going, who am I to be doing this? Like, I'm just me. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I've been through that and I still get an element of that as well. So I noticed that. I kind of vibe with that straight away. But yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, this is the same Carly, right? I'm just checking.
Yeah. Not a clone or the evil. I'm the evil twin, really. This is all a ploy.
That'd be an interesting concept, wouldn't it?
The world. Yeah.
So tell us, so you said woman in tech as well. So I remember you doing one job. What was that journey like then? Because you haven't always been in that industry.
No, I ask anybody I used to work with in my previous job about my computer skills and Excel, and it was pretty embarrassing, really. Try and keep this a shortened version, but I basically decided I was a team leader in a call center. Very typical role, you know, doing quality checks, telling people they're not working well enough, you know, you need to increase your KPIs. It was, you know, basic thing. I work for a charity, which is great, but I was a team leader in a call center, so I didn't get that charity vibe, but I'm still just working with advisors, telling them what to do, you know, doing the quality and that kind of thing. It wasn't for me, definitely not. And funny, it kind of links in as well, because I had sort of 2 incidents when I was trying to manage people because they weren't performing, and they decided that that was a personal thing, and I did not deal with that. I had 2 particular people in different teams that or different teams of mine at different points that didn't like being managed, and I didn't deal with their reaction well at all, and that had a massive impact on my mental health. So I had 2 periods of sickness due to it, and they were both about 6 weeks long. It really hit me, and I was like, this job isn't for me. You know, I don't have that mental capability to deal with this. Like, I know that I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm telling you, you're not doing your job well enough. You don't like that, so you're coming back at me saying it's a personal thing. Like, I've got, you know, KPIs are KPIs, I had the numbers, but I couldn't deal with going back and say, like, I took it personally. It was a very personal thing, and it wasn't really a personal thing. It wouldn't have mattered which team leader had given them this news. They'd have probably reacted exactly the same, but I didn't deal with that. So I knew that I needed to make a change. I decided that I wanted that change to be something probably like marketing type thing. I like making pretty infographics. I liked writing comms for the department, and, you know, that kind of stood out to me. And I had the opportunity to move down. We had a big transformation project on at work, and I had the opportunity to be involved in that and hopefully writing some comms and being involved in writing packs that we send out to our customers. Once I got down there, the work and all this writing wasn't there. It wasn't actually available. It had all been done. So I'd kind of come down a little bit too late. So I started working on the system that we use. I don't want to give too much away, so I'm not going to say where I work. And it's funny because I try and tell people what I do as a job, and I'm rubbish. I don't know. I obviously do know, but I'm a PEGA certified systems architect. That sounds really fancy, and I know what I do day to day, but I swear to God, I don't know how to explain it, because I feel like I'm not from that area. I have no experience. It's like a web developer basically, but I don't know how to explain it to you, which is probably like, it's amazing that I've come as far as I have without even being able to tell people what I do, but that's fine. Hopefully no one from work will listen to this and I'll be all right. So I started working in this program and doing a little bit of like HTML coding, a little bit of CSS. So a couple of languages that are used in like the coding world, because there was no marketing type work for me. I then was due to actually move to marketing. So I was moving out of this transformation project. I was moving into a different building and I was going to go on the marketing team because the guy that had got me into the team to start with kind of made a bit of a deal with marketing that I could go over there. It was all a bit like trying to just get me in there, but kind of through the back door.
Yeah.
So I was due to go. They weren't really sure what I was going to do, but it was fine. And then two of the people I'd been working with on this project said to me, look, you're really good at this coding I was doing and this like IT stuff. They were like, you're good at it and we need some more people. How do you feel about actually staying? We're not sure exactly what it'll look like going forward, but for the time being, but it meant I'd have to give up this marketing dream. I mean, I'd only had the dream for like a month or so. It's not like it'd been my lifelong dream.
Okay, yeah.
I was desperate to not be a team leader. So I was like, I was still on a secondment as well. So there was always the risk of having to go back to my old role. So I was like, do you know what? I am good at this. I've picked it up really quickly and I've had nothing but good feedback from people. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. And that it basically just built from there. It was funny because the guy that ended up being my line manager, once I became a junior Pega developer, and the guy who became my line manager, he used to be a team leader with me in the same department.
Right.
And he'd once tried to teach me some very basic Excel and I did not get it. We spent hours and it was just me going, don't get it, don't get it, don't know what you're doing, don't get it. And we sat one day and he was like, how are you doing this? You couldn't even use Excel, like seriously, how are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know, I can just do it. So it's a very specialized role that I have. You think about normal web developers, and a lot of them usually have like a couple of languages that they'll use. So there's like, and I don't know if people will have heard of any of these, but you've got like your HTML, your CSS, which are quite basic. Then you've got things like JavaScript, you've got Python. There's all these, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different coding languages, that you use to write websites, build apps for phones, all sorts of different things. So usually a web developer would know a few of these languages and would be their skills, and they would go to a job and write code in these languages. What I do is different because the platform we use is low code. So there is code within it and it is difficult, but it's a low code platform. The point of it is that all the code's already in there and it's a bit more user friendly, but it's very specialized. So there isn't like loads of jobs or anything in this field, but it is quite well paid because it's so specialized. But yeah, so I said I'd stay and I just kept building on it, and it was very much like it took me about 2 years to get from there to here, 2.5 years actually, to actually not be a junior anymore. I've worked so hard over the last year to prove that I could do this, especially because I kind of had to, because I had no experience. I couldn't say, well, I did this big project at my old place and I've written this in code and I've made this game. I hadn't done anything like that. So it's been really, really tough, but I am the only woman in our team, which I'm really proud of. And I wish there were more women, obviously, but I'm proud that I'm the first woman within the team. I'm happy that the charity gave me the opportunity to be that first woman. When they gave me the opportunity to become a junior, it was a risk for them because, who knew whether I'd actually make it, because the stuff I was doing at the beginning was quite easy, and it obviously got harder as I went on, but there was no real, promise that it would work out. But I was given that opportunity. We've recently had a bit of a restructure and we've got a couple of new managers come on board, and we've got a new development manager. And one of the things that I'm going to be working quite closely with him on is trying to get more women into the charity and into the department, encouraging them to do it. He likes my story because I came, with zero background, and he thinks, because I think one of the things is if I look now at jobs in tech, like I'm on LinkedIn a lot, because I like to do a bit of networking. I've been going to quite a lot of seminars and things. But one of the things that I do is I'm just sort of browsing through LinkedIn, and the language that's used is so off-putting, and it's so confusing. And that's not being a woman, but that's probably for anybody. But the language that they're using in these adverts, no one can understand it unless you're really high level, and it needs to just be stripped back and made friendlier for everyone to understand. And it's so male dominant, it's just all blokes. We have a couple of women within the department, we have no developers that are women at all, because we have a couple of different teams of developers across the department, but there's literally only a handful of women in our department, although our chief information officer is a woman, which is awesome. And we've got another couple of women in the sort of senior leadership team, which is really cool. But we definitely need to get more women there.
Is there anything, because I suppose tech itself, along with a lot of the other, it's all umbrellaed under STEM when you think about engineering and stuff like that as well. So a lot of these things are synonymous with being very male centric. Is there anything about what you do and the kind of teams that you're in that you can see actually that's why it wouldn't attract a woman? Or is it that's just the way it is? Or what do you think? Are there any barriers that you can see? Because you've fallen on this by chance, really.
Yeah, no, I did.
You've run with it, but
yeah, I was very lucky to be given an opportunity, and then I definitely 100% sort of deserved to get where I got. But yes, the actual it was right place, right time, and the reason that I even got the opportunity to go down and work on that project was because I gave an overview for the guy that was the new marketing manager, so it was all a series of chance. I'm trying to think sort of specifically within our work. I think one of the barriers is that they're already just all men. I suppose as an outsider looking in, you wouldn't know that. But when you're because the company I work for is large, we have a lot of different departments. IT was always on its own floor. And whenever you went there for any reason, they'd have the guys that would be there to fix your computer as well on the same floor.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm saying guys because they were all guys, and that's all you would ever see. And I think that's a barrier to start with. And also one of the things that I'm sure everybody can relate to is the kind of atmosphere and banter you have. Guys are different, and it's not always, a place that women might want to be or feel safe to be.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. My team is brilliant. We've got quite a mix of characters in there. But I think that can be off-putting as well, because it's just, everybody needs to feel safe, and sometimes that doesn't happen. I think that's an issue as well. But going back to what I said earlier, I do think the language as well is a barrier. And it's funny because it's the kind of language. This was somebody posted this a while ago. It was they'd shared a job advertisement. It was a woman who works in tech that I follow on LinkedIn, and she'd shared an advertisement for a job, and the opening line was something it was just really male centric language. It was are you ready to be a rock star? And I can't remember. I wish I could remember now because it'd make a load better story. But it was very much, you could tell a man had written it, and you could tell he'd written it for other men. And I'm not saying that girls want to be oh, do you want to work somewhere that's pink and unicorn sparkly or anything like that? But you could just tell that it wasn't for a wider audience. It was definitely directed at men. So that's something that there needs to be a lot more work on that as well across the board. That's not just at where I work or anything, but definitely across the board.
So, I mean, it sounds to me like almost I suppose the sector is, forgotten the word. You know, when you just have a word on the tip of your tongue, it's almost a
Yeah.
victim of itself, because it's almost self-propelling itself to keep men in there. It's almost like it's not opened the horizons for men and women to work together in it. So, you know, you've got men who then, because you've got all these men, you get a lot more men advertising for it, and then it just breeds that. It just breeds that same thing. Not necessarily that it's unwelcoming to women, but it might just not be approachable in that same way. It might not seem, you know, it sounds like it seems a little bit daunting, or like you say, that banter and the differences there are in the, I suppose, the way that men communicate as to some women communicate, and we'll be careful not to make assumptions, because that's not what we're here for. But
yeah,
I think it almost sounds like, let's force some of that change. Let's, you know, and then what happens then is, you know, you bring more of a balance, and then that balance should breed more balance. Especially when you look at the, you know, the gender differences. But I mean, I see it in, because my world is, as well as coaching, it's in the fitness world, and a lot of the language, not so much nowadays because it has changed, but a lot of the language is, do you even lift, bro? Now, bro is man. And I dare say there's as many women work out and go to the gym and stuff as there are men, but you're still surrounded by that. I suppose that whole theme. But yeah, it always amazes me. Things like we said, technology, IT. I'm thinking back through companies I've worked for, and the amount of women that have had them roles that I've experienced is tiny.
Yeah.
But you've come through, you've taken this opportunity. And actually, I'm just going to go back to something you said, and this person that you'd worked with before, and you'd been rubbish at Excel spreadsheets, but now look at the job you're doing. And when they've asked that question of how are you doing this, and your reaction, whether it was exactly what the reaction is, but was, I don't know. Well, the actual answer is because you've had a motivation to learn it. Whether the motivation is you didn't want to be a team leader, or whether the motivation is you really, really love code. I mean, I'm not here to judge, but you know, there was something that said to you, I'm going to get my teeth stuck into this, and I'm going to apply myself, and I'm going to learn, I'm going to work really hard. And that's exactly what's driven you, you know, to be successful in your role, and, you know, and step away from being a junior and enter this world that is, you know, seems a bit strange and seems a bit larger. And, you know, little old Carly's going up in the world. Yeah. But you're not little old Carly. Yeah. You are Carly. And you've come on today, and you've shown that actually a little bit of a force to be reckoned with, but in a positive, and I think in a motivational way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think you're totally right there. It's interesting to hear that back, actually, when I said, oh, you know, how are you doing this? I don't know. Well, I do know, because, and I think that comes back to sort of going back to the mental health side, is like having a serious case of imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know how I'm doing this. I don't deserve to be here. I can't do this. Like, I couldn't work Excel last week. How am I doing this? You know, it's crazy, but actually I do know how I did it, because I worked really hard and I learned it, and I spent a lot of time of my own, you know, after work learning it, and that's how I got good at it. And there was a big part of me as well that was driven because I'm a woman, and I wanted to show everybody that I could do it, you know, that women can do these jobs as well. So that was a big thing. But that's just really like been a bit of a light bulb moment for me, like thinking back, well, I know exactly how I did it, you know, but at the time, and even sometimes now, you know, imposter syndrome is a big thing, and I think a lot of people go through it. You know, all I've ever really done is worked in call centers. You know, even before I became a team leader, I was just advisors in call centers. It's all I'd really done, because they were easy jobs to get back in the day. Like when I was at uni, it was easy to just have a part-time evening job in a call center. You know, the pay was never that bad. There were great little jobs to do, and it's easy. But to be in a position now where I'm in a well-paid job that's actually a career, I mean, you know, being an advisor in a call center, I'm not saying it's not a career, everybody's different, but for me, that wasn't what I wanted my career to be like. Since I was little, the two things that I've really wanted was my own house, just so I could decorate it however I wanted. It wasn't about owning the house, it was just being allowed to decorate it. So I wanted my own house. And I wanted to have a career. And that's why I went to uni to do nutrition, which is funny because I don't do that now. But that was just a sort of an unfortunate series of events. I moved to Australia, I moved back here, and I needed to just get a job all the time. And by the time I would have been ready to properly put that time in to be a nutritionist, it was too late. I couldn't afford to be on the basic starting salary, which at the time would have been about 12 grand, and I was already, renting a house, and I couldn't have afforded to do that. I also had forgotten a lot of stuff, and also a lot of it had changed. You'll know, Matt, that the nutrition industry and what's healthy for you one minute is different the next, and I would have needed to retrain at least a little bit. So I gave up on that. I'm still absolutely chuffed to bits that I did a degree, and extremely proud of myself, because again, that was something back, thinking back to high school. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I basically felt like I would never amount to anything. The teachers at my school pretty much, without saying it, pretty much said that.
Right.
I had a terrible experience at high school, and I felt like I would never amount to anything. So going to uni for me was a bit of a fingers up to my old school, especially when I came out with a first. You're talking nutrition as well. There's like, we had like my friend used to always take the mickey out of me because he'd asked me once what I'd done at uni, and it was one of our cooking sessions, and it wasn't about cooking, it was about looking at diets and giving people calories for different diets, but we would cook as well. And that one particular day we'd made some broccoli, and then that was it. Then for the rest of my 3-year degree, it was like, oh, we've been making broccoli again. He thought it was hilarious. But we did like biochemistry, we did all these really difficult things, and I did really well because what I realized is that I was interested in it and I wanted to do it. Again, this takes us back to the whole job thing. I enjoyed coding. I was interested in it. So I actually put the time and effort into it. I didn't want to be a team leader, so I didn't put the effort into being better and being able to handle things better because I didn't want to do it. And now I've forgotten what I was saying. So I went to uni. Yeah. But being at school, instead of just giving me a rollicking all the time for not paying attention in my classes and not being, not getting good grades and everything, my teachers just spent their time shouting at me and telling me off rather than finding out what I wanted to do, what I enjoyed, what I was good at, and then spending that time. And that's what uni was for me, was realizing that I am good at stuff, but it was about finding something that I was interested in, and I didn't sort of get that at school, or that support from home either. It was going to uni, I was 21. How old was I can never remember now. Wait a minute, what year is it? How old am I now? I finished uni in 2012. I was about 23 when I finished uni, or when I started, I can't remember. Either way, I was older. I was classed as a mature student, even though I was, I was still quite young, but I wasn't 18 fresh out of school. And it took me on my own figuring out something that I was interested in, and going and doing that and being amazing at it. Just like now, I found something that I'm good at, so I put the effort in and I work, and I'm amazing at it. But I don't know what I started on there, but I told some other stories.
It's fine, because I always find it funny because there's always little points that I want to come back to, and one of them is that you went to Australia, which is a huge thing for anyone to do. And I just wanted to kind of make a comment on the fact that there's been all these struggles for you and all these challenges. And actually, when you said at school where we rely on people to guide us and to give us the support and to almost shape us, to see the qualities in us, embrace that, help nurture that. And then sometimes the negative stuff but that's where we really find out who we are. So, if you haven't got a great attention span, then it's a different way of learning that you're gonna respond to better. And then you've gone to university, which is very much individual driven. I remember my experience at uni, and it was 10 hours a week, and I literally just didn't really care about it. I came back with a 2-1, and when people asked me what I did, I just kind of go, oh, it was a bit of a rubbish course. And but you still work hard to get the results that you do, and it all depends on the experience. And it was in nutrition, so it's something that really you've come out of, and you've not chosen to drive that as a career, but you're proud of doing it. But from everything you've said, coming from a place that actually you weren't quite sure about how much you liked yourself. You know, there were all these negative thoughts, and there were all these almost like little daily beatdowns to yourself, and just playing everything down and almost wanting to underpromise, almost a feeling of wanting to underpromise so that you couldn't disappoint yourself, because actually, you know, that just make you feel worse. But everything that you've just said is one of your strengths, and I'm going to say superpowers because I love all my superhero stuff, as you know, is when you have found something that aligns. So that we talk about aligning with finding your purpose by aligning things with your values. So when something aligns with you that you know you're going to enjoy or that you get stuck into, you give it 110%.
Yeah.
But
Like
the things that you haven't, the things that don't align, so the team leader role,
yeah,
you don't give 100%.
yeah.
And that's absolutely fine. And that's perfect. And there is actually a notion. I was reading a book on the subtle art of not giving a fuck, it was called.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were allowed to swear on this podcast, so I've been trying to censor myself.
No, it's fine.
Probably for the best, to be fair. So I've got anyway, sorry.
I'm saying that because it's the name of the book, and I want it to be as natural. So if you need to say something, say it. But you know, and that was Mark Manson, and he says, "Love the things that you love." And this is a rough translation, so please don't anyone quote me on the book. Okay, but it's the idea of spend all the energy on the things that you're passionate about and the things that you love. Give a fuck about the things that you give a fuck about, and the things that you don't. You know, don't misplace your energy or think that you have to then change it or you have to give a crap about it. Accept yourself, and for me, it's what feels right in my gut.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't feel right, then that's telling you something. So is it telling you that you want to get better at it, or you want to face that challenge, or is it actually telling you that challenge isn't right for you? There's no point putting the energy on that. Do it in something else instead. You know, make the most of the days and the energy you've got. And you've shown that no matter what state of mind you're in, you've been able to do that. But the likelihood is I don't think you've appreciated that. I don't think you've seen that strength necessarily in yourself.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have done because, you know, up until recently, like I said, I didn't really appreciate anything that I did or didn't do or any decisions I'd made because I just didn't think they were worthy of appreciation. But I think you're really right about caring about the things you care about and not caring about the things that you don't care about. And I still I've got a page on Facebook. And I talk about fitness, food, mental health is a big thing on there. I talk about anything I fancy, to be honest, but it's usually around fitness and food because that's where that's where my page started. But I'm also a member of like I don't know what you call it, a coaching group, but for diets. You get your calories and you know your track and whatever, and it's a community. But you'll always, whenever you see me reply to anyone's post about, oh, I messed up, or I went over my calories yesterday, or I didn't do my workout I should have done, or it was my daughter's first birthday so I ate a bit of cake, my comments are always, so what, like I don't have time anymore to worry about those little things. You know, if you're on a diet and you want to lose weight, then great, but it doesn't matter if you have one day off. There's 365 days in a year. One day won't ruin that. 1 week won't ruin that. A whole month wouldn't ruin that because there's still 11 other months. And I've got to a point now where I find it really sad and it hurts my heart when people are so caught up in the little things that don't matter and that they don't enjoy, you know, the things that are important, like people's birthdays, especially like your kids and stuff. You know, any sort of achievement. So I got a promotion at work and I want to celebrate, but I didn't because I don't want to track a takeaway. You know, all these things like, wow, just do it, please do it. Because I think it's really sad that people spend a lot of time. And yeah, you know, when you compare it to something like a job, obviously I still did my job to my best ability and I still went to work every day. I still tried hard. I didn't slack off, but I definitely didn't put the kind of effort into it that I would have done. I still did everything I needed, ticked all the boxes, but I didn't put my passion into it because I didn't care. I wasn't passionate about it. But I think it's really important what you said about, you know, caring about the things you care about and just not the other stuff. Like life is far too short to and that's something else has been this year especially. We've been extremely lucky that we haven't been affected directly by COVID. My sister's kids have had it. They were all symptomless. We haven't lost anybody from it. So our class ourselves as being very lucky. However, I know a lot of people who have lost a lot of people. People who have lost both parents to COVID. People who have lost a few family members, some close friends, and everything that's happened over the last year, like, has to just scream to people, like, it's just not worth not doing the things that you enjoy. I know that there'll always be things you have to do that you don't enjoy. There's parts of my job that I absolutely hate. There's parts of my job that when there's certain tasks that we have to do and they'll be shared amongst the team, and when it's my turn, I just think, oh my God, like, I can't imagine anything worse than this. But you do it, because you have to. There are things in life you have to do, but if you don't have to do it, don't do it. Like, it really is as simple as that, I think, anyway.
No,
I feel like that where it was another tangent, but
it's fine. We're full of tangents. We've got plenty of space.
I love a tangent.
So, a couple of things then. So, the nutrition. So no, in fact, I'm gonna go around the other way around. So, the first thing for me is the whole complication on diets and tracking. Now, I've been someone that's religiously tracked. I ended up with a terrible relationship with food. I'm a serial dieter, then a binger. I'm a bulker, I'm a slimmer downer, and even as a PT, even in the fitness industry, it never changed. So that's part of my personality, is to do things kind of to the extreme, especially when I'm following a plan or when somebody else gives me accountability, because I know my accountability comes from external sources rather than internal. But like you said about the person that's on a diet, but then it's the birthday or they're celebrating something, but they're so scared, there's almost that anxiety of, well, shall I have it or shall I not? Am I going to ruin everything? And that ability to be able to accept that you want something. And if you fill your day full of moments of things, when you really think about making a decision, think about what either of those looks like. So as very much when you were going through hypnotherapy and it was, looking at different possibilities, looking and thinking, well, how am I going to feel if I have that piece of cake? How am I going to feel if I don't have that piece of cake? Which one makes you feel better? Because that will then help you decide. And sometimes you have to accept that there's that old saying that you don't want it bad enough. And I think it's time we change that and we say you want other things more.
Yeah.
Because actually something like a body change goal or a weight loss goal, if that is your be all and end all, your highest priority, you're up there on a pedestal, then fine. Yes, you are going to feel bad if you have that piece of cake. We know this because, but like the likelihood is if that's your main priority, then you're not even going to think about it. You're going to just stick to your plan and whatever your plan is, if it's working. But when you've got a life and it's a busy life, you have to accept that you are you. And there are sometimes going to be things that just take precedent.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody's felt bad when, the dishes have piled up beside the sink or the house isn't quite as clean as it should be.
Yeah.
Should normally coming from parental expectations when we grow up, and the houses or the houses of friends that we go to, we then think ours needs to be the same. There's all that thing around it. But actually, if you just go, do you know what? I really want that cake. I'll get back to it tomorrow. Yeah. And you go, well, I want the cake more than I do to know that I'm exactly on track. But actually, through support or through these groups, people are telling us that it's not the end of the world. So it's going to be absolutely fine. You have a rocking night. And like you said, life's too short. Because that you don't want it bad enough has negative connotations.
I think there's, with regards to like the diet industry, there's so many words out there that are so negative. You don't want it enough. You're making excuses. This is a bad food. This is an unhealthy food.
Yeah.
Food is food. Food is fuel, and food has calories in it, which is what you need. Some foods will be more nutritious than others, but they're all still food. And it doesn't matter what kind of food it is, but all these negative words and these, and I had a slip up yesterday. Why did you slip up? You just ate some cake. Why is that a slip up? Why is that a bad thing? Yeah. It's all that negativity around it, which it might not even be that, that bit of cake might not make a difference to your fat loss. The scales might not change because you might still be within calories, but it's seen as a bad thing. And that's just, I'm in a different nutrition, diet, whatever you want to call it, community than I was last time I saw you.
That was going to be my second point, but yeah, go on.
Is the most toxic place I've ever had any dealings with. And they talk a lot about you making excuses. You're making excuses. You know, I've just broke both my legs. I can't do my steps today. You're making excuses. Really? Like,
I mean, that's an extreme example, but that, you know, that was
honestly, like, that's not that far off from the kind of things that they say. It's so negative, and it's, you know, it's absolutely just terrible. And I am, because of my experience, and that was a big part of my mental health journey over the last few years anyway, my experience of being involved in that group and feeling like I had to be somebody I wasn't, has really changed my view on the whole diet thing. And I replied to, so, like I said this before, but I replied to so many comments about trying to steer it into, it's not a negative thing, whatever it is you've done, you've had a takeaway, or you've not tracked this, or you've had a week off. I try and just turn it round every single time, and just, I think, accepting that it's happened as well and moving on. But yeah,
I think
I don't know what else I was.
Well, no, but it's almost empowering if somebody has made a choice. And they have made a choice to have something that has then meant that their progress has halted for whatever reason, or in, you know, and that is their concern, that the progress isn't there. Then you have made a choice. And now, unless we'll go back to the cake. So unless you've had that cake and really not enjoyed it, but carried on eating it, even though you're not enjoying it, which there are several other issues there, you know, to go with, then
definitely.
you've made a choice to better that day, something you wanted to do. So you've done something for yourself, which I could talk for hours on that, because that's,
I mean, I could,
and we might have to do a part two, but you know, but like you said, that environment, that first group that you were in, and again, not naming any names because it's not really necessary, but again, there are going to be approaches in life, as well as fitness and as well as there are going to be things that don't sit with you. There's going to be things that don't make you feel good. And you don't have to fit in. But it's good to just acknowledge that other people have their own views. But you have your own view, and you can work out which one sits best with you. And actually, that will tell you actually what result you're going to get from the end of that. And it might be, when we go back to fitness and we're talking about tracking calories and we're talking about nutrition, that actually, if the thought of counting calories makes you feel in a negative way, i.e., that's never going to happen, I'm not doing that, whatever, that's fine, absolutely fine. Have no judgment on yourself, and nobody should have judgment against you. That's also a big point as well, which we see as part of that toxicity. But just accept that you are you are less in control of those tiny little numbers. So when you're looking at science, you need science to breed scientific results. If you're not going to be scientific about it and you're just going to be a bit more holistic and a bit more, I'm going to go what I enjoy, then you're going to get a result based on that. But every step that makes up that journey, you're going to enjoy them steps. And I think that's far more powerful. So to be all airy-fairy, I do like that phrase, actually. I've not heard it for a few years, so I'm just going to keep repeating it because you've said it now. But when we look at life in terms of a construct of time, each moment, the future is just moments that haven't been yet, and the past is moments that have gone. So steps is a great example, or something like the yellow brick road, or when, you know, paving slabs, when you're on a journey. If you spend your energy making sure each one of those is as good as it can be and that you have the best experience, then that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself, because no matter whether that journey ends tomorrow or whether it ends in 100 years, you've made the most out of it. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter whether, you know, because the people that are most important to you, the people that you need in your life, are the people that will support that. There will always be people that don't understand it. There will always be people that are defensive, that will doubt it. There'll be people that the other way. You will find people that are so supportive the other way that actually you know, you're like, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you spend your energy just loving each moment, then it's not always easy to do.
No, it's not.
But I think them times where you have a decision and you go, do you know what, I don't feel great today. Okay, so something's come across, a situation's happened, or a question, I'm asking myself a question, and I'm not sure what the answer is, or I feel a little bit anxious, or what am I going to have for tea? You know, I've got two choices. That's a tiny thing, but the mind, because of the fight or flight reflex, and the fact that we don't deal with tigers and lions going to eat us anymore, makes a mountain out of a molehill. And actually, once you make a decision and you get over that, you will never remember that again.
Yeah.
But it feels so big, and it takes so much energy, and it drains it, doesn't it? And it's just amazing that, again, I mean, you talk about coming off on a tangent.
Yeah.
I've gone to Zimbabwe with what I've just been saying, but it's really that almost trying to let go of expectations that you think are there, and living with no expectations and just going with the here and now.
Yeah.
And by all means put plans in place, because if you do certain things, then you're going to get to a certain place. So in your career now, there's certain places, there's certain ladders you want to climb, or there's certain jobs that you want now. So there's going to be formalized steps to get there. But to get there, you need to keep yourself motivated and yourself in a good place.
Yeah, definitely.
So alongside doing that work, it's just trying to embrace every moment. And some of the stuff you do with your group, so it's gym hair, don't care. And I always love that, because it's the idea of, do you know what? I'm sweaty and I've been to the gym, but I really don't care, because I love going to the gym, or I love working out. And that kind of shows that strength. Anyway, and there's a lot of people and a lot of activity, because I'm on that group and I see that, and I do try and, trying to add stuff in when I'm there, because there's some very funny characters.
Yeah, my page is really important to me. I'm glad that, because the reason I started that page was from that other group I was in, and when we parted ways, I wasn't sure if I was going to carry it on, but I am so glad I did, because for me, because one of the main things is, and talking about all this that we've talked about today, and about my promotion and about the hypnotherapy and changing my life, there's also a lot of dark stuff. There's a lot of dark stuff in my past. There's a lot of dark stuff in my present. And there'll probably be some in my future, because mental health is something that is there now. And I kind of believe that that's something that will be with me for my whole life at some degree. But knowing that something I've posted or something that I've done has helped just one person, makes it all kind of worthwhile. So having my page is just super important, and I get good feedback, and I don't, I'm not I've not gone viral, I don't have millions of followers, but I've got a steady little group, and I absolutely love doing it, and it means so much to me. And and everybody will know when I'm having a bit of a mental health time, because I don't post anything, and then all of a sudden I'll appear back, and I'll and people know that. And I have people that check in on me, and check in that I'm okay, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I love internet friends. I love how internet friends are just always on it, and they notice immediately when you're not about. And I've made some really good friends through it as well. Some proper friends. Yeah. But yeah, it is something that's really important to me. So if anybody wants to check it out, then feel free. It's just me waffling about life. Don't expect anything brand new amazing. It's just little old me. But one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is sharing my mental health stuff, because I want people to talk about it. I don't want there to be a stigma about it, and I want people to feel comfortable to share things and to get help if they need it. So that's everything else aside, the cooking that I might do, the recipes I share, the exercise, anything, I just want mental health to be normalized, and it to be spoke about like it's a normal thing, it's I broke my arm, I've got mental health, it's all the same thing. So
it's a good window, essentially it's a good window to get to know you, and to get to know and to get to meet people that are like-minded, who have also been interested in getting to know you, but also being part of a positive and supportive community.
A tip that somebody gave me not so long ago, I think it was actually my sister. I think she was talking about, she's trying to look at rebranding her company that she's got. She makes cakes for a living, and she's looking at rebranding it. And it was about what you want that brand to be, and it's about posting stuff that you like and that you enjoy, because then the people who follow you and engage with you will be your kind of people. I don't want my page to be trying to teach someone something that somebody that disagrees with me on a fact. My page isn't about changing their mind. It's about engaging with the people who already think the same as me. Who are people that are like me and who I would be friends with in real life. And that's, so it is, it might seem a bit, well, it's just about me, but it is, because that's the whole point. It's for me to reach out to other people who are like me, that have similar interests and that have similar hobbies and things like that, and maybe struggle with mental health, or maybe really into CrossFit or whatever, but we'd have similarities, because that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, and I think naturally when you are authentic, I think authenticity is quite magnetic, and it does draw the people who want to see the stuff that you put out and want to engage with that. Then I think you'll naturally get that. But it is great because you are authentic, and that's the one thing, that's another superpower. Let's go back to being a superhero. But there's always been that authenticity, and ever since I've known you, there's never been a time where actually I've ever found anything, you're trying to cover up anything or try to pretend that anything is what it isn't. I was just trying to get that phrase right. Which is amazing, and which again is something that I would suspect has been there for a long time. But maybe just not seen in the same way as it is now that you're more empowered to think differently. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I mean, you did ask me if there was going to be questions that I was going to ask you, and I'm only going to ask you one to put you on the spot, because do you know what? It's fun doing it. But if you were to say, so we've talked about your job, we've talked about you being in tech, we've talked about a little bit about mental health, a little bit about fitness, and kind of your interests in that. If there was anything you could gift anyone that's watching or listening to this, anything in a couple of sentences, what would it be? Or a message you wanted to give out, or if there was going to be anything, what would it be?
Okay, a couple of things then.
All right,
just be kind. Just be kind to yourself. Like, honestly, like I know that, like, my counselling, this has all happened for me quite recently, but it is just not worth not being kind to yourself. Like, it hurts my heart when I read things on the internet and I see things and people talk badly about themselves. Like, it's just please try and be kinder to yourself. Forgive yourself for things, especially like things that have happened. It's in the past. So just be kind to yourself, be gentle on yourself, make sure that you're doing a bit of self-care. Self-care is so important. We all work really hard Monday to Friday, like, make sure you have some downtime. The other thing, which is kind of ties into it, is honestly, life's too short. Just enjoy the things you want to enjoy, do more of the things that you love. We've all got that thing that we love to do. Just go and do it. Just look, I did write some notes. I'm just looking to see anything in particular that I wanted to point out. But I think that's it. And if you're just be kind to yourself, and life is too short, because they're the two biggest lessons I've learned over the last sort of few years. And I think it's just super important, and it changed my life. Cheesy, might seem a bit, but it did. So
change your life, and that's a story that you're telling, and that's incredible. And thank you for sharing that. If anyone wants to, what's the best way for people to find your group, or to get in touch if they want to ask you anything, or
so my page on Facebook is Gym Hair Don't Care Carly. But if you type in Gym Hair Don't Care, it'll come up. What is my profile picture? I think it's like a pink and blue swirl at the moment with Gym Hair Don't Care in it. My Instagram is Gym_Hair Don't Care. My group is Gym Hair Don't Care Group, because I wanted to make it and I couldn't think of a better name, so it's just called that, but I might rename it at some point. But if you go to my page on Facebook, you'll be able to find a link to my group anyway, because I sort of cross-post and stuff. So that's where you would find me. And I do all sorts of things on my page. I do lives, and I post memes, and all sorts of different things. So something for everyone.
Yes, well, I have seen it. I am part of it, and I would recommend it for anyone that has listened, especially to this part, because we've been talking for quite a while, which has been amazing.
Yeah, we have.
Thank you. But so yeah, actually, if that sounds like it could be for you, then I would definitely look and join. And obviously, you can get in touch with me if you're struggling to find anything, and I'll definitely point you in the right direction. But thank you very much for your time today, Carly. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for sharing everything you have with us.
Thank you for having me. This is, like I said, I just want to be honest about mental health and really push that. So I really appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about it. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
You are welcome. It's been a pleasure in return. Well, in case you couldn't tell, me and Carla could have probably spoken about that for a lot longer than we did. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. We may well do a part 2, depending. If you'd like to see that, leave a comment below. Also, if there's anyone you'd like to see, if there's somebody you've not seen me interview yet, again, leave that in the comments below. Please click subscribe to the channel. Knock that little bell icon just to make sure that you're updated with all the new videos that are coming up. And please don't forget, if you want to visit or see anything or more that I do, or you want any of the clothing or anything like that, www.imdoingitfor.me. And that leaves me to say, stay super.